CinemaJaw is sponsored by Overcast, an independent podcast app that embraces the open world of podcasting instead of locking it down. No exclusives, no premium content, no paywalls. Just a great podcast app for everyone. Get it for free in the App Store. And we thank them for their support. You're listening to CinemaJaw, the greatest movies podcast ever, recorded on location from our respective homes in Chicago. My name is Matt Kay, and with me is...
Rye, the movie guy, and sitting inside the fish tank is Fill Me In Phil.
How's it going, guys?
This week on CinemaJaw, Matt, we fly solo and give the Jawheads multiple reviews.
It's another Review-o-rama.
It is winter, February to be exact. Bad weather across most of the country, depending where you're listening. And it's a good time to stay in, watch movies. So why not give the Jawheads a few reviews?
Hey, man, I agree. Even if there wasn't a raging pandemic outside of our doors, there is all this snow, like 2 feet of snow. I had to shovel my way out to get my car out. It's a mess. Just stay home and watch movies.
It is. But we do have a special interview. Got to sit down with the stars of Judas and the Black Messiah, Daniel Kaluuya and LaKeith Stanfield. We got interviews with both of them.
Nice.
We'll play some of that, and I think the Jawheads have something really to look forward to in Judas and the Black Messiah.
Sweet. That's a good get, man. I'm excited to hear all that.
Absolutely. Besides that, we have more going on, don't we, Phil?
Yes, it is a week of celebrations at CinemaJaw. Not only are we continuing Jodie Foster Month, but we are also celebrating another Patreon this week. We are celebrating Darren Mordecai.
Nice. About time we got to Darren.
Yes. A true jawhead to the bone. Love that guy. And we have reviews, ladies and gentlemen, of Judas and the Black Messiah, The Dig, and The Little Things.
In honor of a new animated feature playing on HBO Max entitled Earwig and the Witch, Matt, you are taking Phil on in animation voice movie trivia. 10 questions. I'm just giving you the character. You give me who voiced the character. Sound
Couldn't
good?
have been Ghibli.
Phil, you're
It's just
crush.
animation.
For new listeners, Phil's an animation expert. So,
Well,
I'm gonna.
don't put me too high. I could still mess this up.
Well, now the pressure's on, buddy. You better win.
We'll also get to some Hollywood headlines, a lot going on. It's award season, so we got to mention a few of those things during Hollywood headlines.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in the news. So it's a jam-packed jaw, Ryan.
Absolutely. So let's get to our first review, Matt K. Daniel Kaluuya, star of Get Out and Queen and Slim, stars as Fred Hampton in the new film Judas and the Black Messiah. Fred Hampton was the chairman of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panthers, who rose to prominence in the late 1960s. LaKeith Stanfield, star of Sorry to Bother You, plays William O'Neill. O'Neill was an FBI informant who got inside the Black Panther Party and close to Fred Hampton, and ultimately gave information to the Chicago police about Hampton that would lead to his death. As a Chicagoan, I had heard the name Fred Hampton, but was not as familiar with his story as I should have been. Early in the film, we see that Hampton worked with school kids and was responsible for the Rainbow Coalition. He had charisma and leadership that drew the attention of many in the Chicago area. He also drew the interest of one J. Edgar Hoover, played here by Martin Sheen. The FBI, led by Agent Roy Mitchell, played by Jesse Plemons, sends in O'Neill to keep tabs on what was going on. As O'Neill starts to participate in the Black Panther gatherings, he sees the power the group has, understands their struggle and their goals. He also sees what a force Fred Hampton is. This puts O'Neill in a difficult spot, as he is betraying their trust and talking to the FBI. LaKeith Stanfield's performance is full of torture, with a scene that brought me to tears. Kaluuya pours in a commanding performance. When he starts to chant, "I am a revolutionary," the hair on my arms was standing straight up. This is a tense story that was educational at times. I can't say enough good things about Judas and the Black Messiah. Big fan, Matt K.
That's awesome, man. So as a Chicagoan, you'd heard of some of these stories, but you said it was sort of illuminating.
It was. I remember hearing Fred Hampton's name. There's actually a mural in Chicago. I think years ago I was walking by and there's a mural of Fred Hampton, and I asked about it and then was told that was Fred Hampton and briefed on the story. And now some years later, I sort of forgot the exact story. And so I was interested in knowing, the whole background. It's definitely one of those movies where once you get done watching it, I looked up the real case, more facts about Fred Hampton and actually William O'Neill, who did end up giving a television interview, which they do use the footage of in the movie, him talking some years later about, actually being an FBI informant and turning, on the Black Panthers.
Yeah. This was also, it kind of connects to the trial of the Chicago 7, right? Wasn't the character of Fred Hampton also at least momentarily in Chicago 7?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely crossed paths. And what a crazy time the late 60s were in Chicago.
Right.
I mean, in the country in general, but while the spotlight was really on Chicago at the time, you're totally right. They crossed paths here with the trial of the Chicago 7. The Democratic National Convention was going on, the riots in the city. And then you have, Fred Hampton's rise to power, and you have, J. Edgar Hoover basically watching this happen. And he just does not want to see Fred Hampton get to, say a national level of, the likes of
Martin Luther King
or Malcolm X.
Yeah.
He wants to sort of stifle him before he gets out of like the Chicago area, because he can sort of see what's taking place here.
It's evil. Speaking of Hoover, like such a sort of a well-known look, right? So how did Martin Sheen look in this role? Was there some makeup going on?
Heavy makeup. I read prior to it that Martin Sheen plays J. Edgar Hoover. If it wasn't for that fact, I think it would have been one of those, like, who is it behind all that makeup? Because yes, heavy makeup indeed on Martin Sheen, but he pulls it off. I mean, it works. He's not in it as much as he is just, in about 3-4 scenes supporting role, talking to like the FBI to get the ball rolling into the investigation.
Yeah. It's like Tilda Swinton in Suspiria as the old man kind of makeup.
Almost. It is that much makeup. It's crazy. And
unrecognizable.
Jesse Plemons as the FBI agent is sinister, and he's great. And he has his whole storyline going where he thinks he's being one-upped in the FBI by people doing, better investigation work than he's doing. So he's really pushing O'Neill, who's his informant, to get more information and to do things that would really help his career within the FBI. And of course, he's just using O'Neill, right? He's got his informant in there, and ultimately this O'Neill is stuck trying to fulfill his obligations, I guess is the best way to say it, to the FBI, and then ultimately being tortured inside, knowing exactly the betrayal that he's doing. It's saddening.
It's crazy, man. It almost sounds like it's got sort of a thriller.
Oh, very much. In fact, you know what? To some degree, The Departed.
I was going to ask. Yeah.
It does have the feel of The Departed, where someone is infiltrated
undercover.
as undercover. There's definitely times where the Black Panthers are suspicious of O'Neill, and there's those moments where and it's a weird kind of feeling too, because I think you're always drawn to you want the guy to succeed, undercover, even though in this case it's really for the wrong reasons. But in those particular scenes when they're suspicious of him, you feel like, oh, I don't know if you want him to get caught, but really you sort of do. It definitely tears you a couple different ways.
Tugs it at the heartstrings. Yeah.
Yeah. So what was great too, earlier this morning, our critic group, the Chicago Indie Critics, got to talk to the stars of the film. And up first was Daniel Kaluuya. And I started by asking him if there was a difference in preparation when it came to portraying a historical figure as opposed to a character of fiction. This is Rye, the movie guy from the CinemaJaw podcast. This question's for Daniel. In this movie, you're playing a historical figure. Does your preparation change when you're playing a character that was a real life person as opposed to straight fiction?
Yeah, it was. I just had to find that out and going through it, just going, oh, this isn't giving me access to assume the position I wanted to be a vessel for this. So I would do things and that doesn't work. Oh, that doesn't work. But also I realized, the target is way smaller, and when you're having a fictional character, you create the boundaries and you create the target and you just got to hit that, with a real life person, you don't have that. But then when my mindset changed, when I stopped seeing it as boundaries, I started seeing it as a guide. And I was like, oh, this is the truth. Listen to that. You need to get out your own way. You know what I'm saying? This is that. That's a fact. Build that, boom, enrich that, boom, enrich that. Then I'm going on a treasure hunt. Then it was just like, there's a lot of love that you just kind of go, oh, I want to learn this. What's that? And because there's not that much information from the perspective that would help. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of information about the Black Panther Party, and I didn't trust that lens. And when I read that information at the beginning, I was like, this is not moving me. There's something wrong with this. You know what I'm saying? And it just felt manipulated and interrupted in a certain way. So then I had to go on a deeper hunt to find things that were from within, as opposed to the outside.
Matt, we also got to sit down with LaKeith Stanfield on Zoom. Again, star of Sorry to Bother You. Jawheads, you probably have seen him in Knives Out and Uncut Gems. Love this actor. So I was totally geeked out to sit on a Zoom call with him. You will hear some follow-up questions from my fellow critics who were on the Zoom call with me, but I opened up by asking LaKeith about a particular line of dialogue from the film. This is Rye, the movie guy from the CinemaJaw podcast. LaKeith, there's a line that you deliver in the movie that's a real stinger. A badge is scarier than a gun. Can films like this change that perception?
Well, I think they can help us hold people that are behind the badge to a certain standard. Once the veil is lifted upon what the propaganda leading up to this point has shown, now we have something to counteract that idea. I think the badge and the gun go hand in hand. I think the badge is the gun, actually, and the badge only means something because of a gun. I think O'Neill was a little off in his assessment that a badge, well, not totally, because there's some things about a badge that might indicate and inspire fear in somebody, but I don't think that's a universal truth. I think actually the gun supports the badge, and without the gun, the badge doesn't mean much. But hopefully films like this help people to see that the government was actually more, if not as fearful or more fearful than Bill O'Neill was, of the prospect that there might be someone that threatened the status quo. So what does that say about the badge? Is it secure?
You are really the only conflicted character in this movie. Everyone else has their stand. They have their path, whether it's Jesse Plemons, whether it's J. Edgar Hoover, whether it's Daniel Kaluuya, and it all culminates in the assassination. Can you tell us a little bit about your emotion, what you went through in preparing for that scene where you deliver the drugs and then driving away and knowing what's going to happen? Yeah,
that scene was tough. It was a hard day for everybody. The energy on set was unlike any other day. The great people who designed the set decoration created a space that zapped you right back into, obviously we had done research, so we'd seen the inside of the apartment many, many times and the place where the murder took place. And we shot that scene on the 50th anniversary of Fred Hampton's death. And it was just a really heavy energy. And I had understood very recently what it meant to lose someone close to me. Up until that point, it was just an imagination or a conception that I had. But since I lost my brother who was close to me and he was 23, to being killed by his brother, I kind of understood and had an idea about what it meant to lose someone, have someone there 1 minute and have them gone the next. So it was a heavy day, and I would try and keep myself as jovial as I could be, because it wasn't necessary for me in that scene to be weeping profusely. So I try to maintain balance in the space as LaKeith Stanfield. And then once the cameras came on, I had to be Bill O'Neill and deliver this drug. But the scene prior indicated that Bill didn't even know that he was going to have to kill Fred Hampton. So I wanted him to struggle in that scene with the idea that, here's this powerful person talking about having to go back to prison and saying 5 years is nothing. I'll do that. It's not about me. It's about the people. And here I am having to give him a glass of Kool-Aid, which I know will knock him out when they come to do what they come to do. So it was a tough night for everybody. And I think we all left the set that day a little bit different than we arrived.
I just kind of wanted to piggyback off of that because I understand that, actors like yourself and Daniel, you guys really dive deep into your process, especially getting into character and all. And I'm just kind of wondering, like, how are you? How's your process after all of this? And what are you doing to take care of yourself?
Thanks for asking that. That makes me a little emotional because no one has even asked about that. And, I definitely came out of this role immediately needing therapy and needing to get through things. And I think going into them in the future, I will definitely employ that before I dive in. As you say, like, we go 110% without sometimes thinking about self-care. And it's important. And, it does have an effect. There were times on set where my hands just went completely numb. There were times where I had existential crises and panic attacks and had to run out of the trailer, and just not knowing if I was doing the right thing, even by playing this character. It felt like it would be a big stigma on me personally, even having to take on a character like this. So I think it helps to have people that can guide you and who understand psychology and emotional alchemy and navigating those things in order to help you out. And now that I have a therapist, it's been much better. But yeah, thanks for asking that, man. I'm doing much better. But yeah, it was hard. I had alopecia that was in remission that came back as a result of the stress associated with it. So, you got to sometimes be careful and manage yourself a bit. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Thank you.
Watching this film and then also having recently watched Sorry to Bother You Again, both Cassius Green and Bill are manipulated by establishment forces. But the eventual outcome for both characters, Cassius ends up becoming a leader, whereas Bill does not. How is it as an actor going through and not getting that catharsis of the character?
That's an interesting parallel I hadn't really thought about. In both cases, it was eye-opening for me to go through the process of playing these characters. And I thought about the ways in which metaphorically the stories applied to my journey, and how much is too much, when to say no. I think that's the most important thing, when to know, when to take back your own agency and not put it in the place of people to make decisions for you. So I recently just got an offer for a commercial, and it was a lot of money, more money than I've ever seen in my life. And I thought about it. I was like, do I really? But it was for selling something that I don't use and that I don't think anyone else should use. So I had to ask myself, is it, what do you want to situate yourself next to? And is that more important than all this money? Christmas would be great next year for everybody, but how are you going to feel? So I declined it. And I think those things, you gotta go with your gut. You gotta go with what you feel. And I just have trust and faith that the rest will fall in place and be there, and that we don't make decisions based off of a lack, and we try to make decisions based off of abundance and knowing that, as long as you stay the path, you'll be all right. So these characters help reinforce that idea in me. And to that extent, I'm unlike both of them. And but the reason why I can be that is because I know what I don't want to be, and I know who I am. So yeah, sometimes characters help show that.
Great talking to some of the actors in this awesome movie that I hope people check out. Judas and the Black Messiah opens up in theaters and simultaneously on HBO Max February 12th. That's this Friday, Matt.
Yeah, do it, Jawheads. I can't wait to see this one, Ryan. I'm jealous that you got to sit down with that group of talent and can't wait to see the film.
This is a spoiler, I guess, for later in the podcast, but my movie poster quote for this movie is, finally, a reason to have HBO Max.
True that. They've been few and far between. I'm glad to hear it.
Matt, before we get to review number 2, it is Jodie Foster month. Phil, do we got a Jodie Foster fact?
Yes, this one is actually a good one, and was even teased a little bit last week. So on March 30th, 1981, John Hinckley Jr. Attempted to assassinate U.S. President Ronald Reagan in Washington, D.C. He wounded Reagan with a bullet from a revolver that ricocheted, hit Reagan underneath his armpit. Hinckley was reportedly seeking fame in order to impress the actress Jodie Foster, who we are celebrating this month. And he had an obsessive fixation with her. Subsequently, a punk band, JFA, short for Jodie Foster's Army, they took their name from this event. They formed 19 days after the shooting, and their name is a dark play on Hinckley's attempt at murdering Ronald Reagan, a hated figure, a very controversial figure in 80s punk.
Yeah, for sure. Reagan and 80s punk, they weren't exactly buddies.
I mean, we all love Jodie Foster, but we're not going out and trying to assassinate a president. We're just celebrating her on a podcast.
Yeah, dude, that's weird. That's a weird case of life reflecting art too, because you had the story of Taxi Driver, and although he wasn't necessarily doing that for Jodie Foster's character, she was in the movie, and at one point he's walking around with a gun at rallies. Mm-hmm. Scary guy, that Travis.
I also think, here's what I think is very cool about this. Maybe cool is the wrong word because it's like an attempted assassination. But man, kudos to Jodie Foster, where she's the one we're talking about after this, not Ronald Reagan. That's like a level of stardom and talent that, quite frankly, doesn't make sense.
I agree. Although it's fair to say that Ronald Reagan did have his own career in Hollywood, the Gipper. But I'll take Jodie Foster over Ronnie.
Jodie for the win, no doubt about it.
Yeah. All right, gents. Switching gears here a little bit, I have a silly review about a fairly serious movie. The Dig, Ryan. I know what you look for in a film, dude. How about a drama? A British drama at that. Make that a British historical period drama about archaeology, but with no Indiana Jones. Let's throw in that this one is based on a novel and stars acclaimed British actors like Ralph Fiennes, Carey Mulligan, and Lily James. Ooh. Well, Rye, have I got the movie for you. Brought to screen by director Simon Stone, Magnolia May Films, and Netflix, I am sure you're going to dig this.
Well, I've been on digs since I was old enough to hold a trowel. My father taught me.
What are they?
We're standing in someone's graveyard, I reckon. Viking? Oh, maybe older.
Mr. Brown is an archaeologist.
Well, I'm an excavator.
You've come to dig up the mounds.
So you think there's something beneath?
Who are those men?
They're from the museum.
Ye gods! Mrs. Pretty, I think you'd better come and see.
Here's what you need to know about the plot of the movie Dig. World War II is imminent. An upper-class widow in England hires a lower-class archaeological excavator to check out her mounds. While that may seem like the setup to a late-night cable movie, this is based on a true story. However, it is fair to call this a dirty movie. The mounds in question in this case are located in Sutton Hoo, the land owned by widow Edith Pretty. You can't make a name like that up. played here by Carey Mulligan. She's had a flair for archaeology since childhood. She hits it off right away with Ralph Fiennes' Basil Brown, a gruff but sincere man with a passion for his work and a penchant for being bullied by his social superiors. The two unearth what may be the most important archaeological discovery of modern times that you have never heard of. Romances are had, marriages are broken, war begins, and the past is uncovered. I would call this movie a light drama. There are serious themes of death and decay, class, and life's fleetingness, but also about immortality and legacy and what we leave behind. I found it to be sweet and touching, and interesting enough to make me very curious about the true treasures that were unearthed. The performances from the cast are impeccable. There's plenty to love here about everyone in the picture. Although much ado has been made out there about several age inconsistencies, especially Carey Mulligan, who's 35 playing a 55-year-old. But since those discrepancies kind of swayed both older and younger, I'd call it a wash. Mulligan successfully portrayed someone who is 20 years older than herself, like actors do. The scenery is breathtaking and the music is appropriately dramatic. The movie didn't bowl me over, but I got a little dirt under my nails with it. What'd you think, Rye?
Wow. Matt, all the pieces, as you said, are there for this to be a great historical drama. Carey Mulligan, Ralph Fiennes, unearthing an ancient treasure, racing the clock before World War II starts, which I don't know if you mentioned. Yet the film in general came up short for me. Dare I say it needed more drama. That's why I thought it was hilarious that you said it's a light drama. I thought the love story concerning Lily James's character did not fit at all, nor did I care about it. In general, mixed reviews on this one for me. I know you think this is right up my alley, but it was just missing something.
That's interesting. Well, I will say this about the whole Lily James thing. It does feel a little shoehorned in, and it doesn't even start until the second act. She's not in the movie at all in the beginning. The whole first act of the movie, you think is going one direction with two characters in particular. And you might see that there's a spark there, some sort of connection there that's going to lead to something, and it's going to be that kind of movie. And then Lily James comes in, and all the air is just let out of that first connection, and her story begins. But maybe it's because I really like Lily James, and her story was complex enough that it did carry me through to the end, and I forgave it, although I agree it is a little out of place.
Whenever a character is digging up mounds, as you put it, Matt Kay, so eloquently.
Well, I mean, that's what they were.
Yes. I mean, he goes over there. How he didn't use the line, Miss Pretty, you have wonderful mounds.
I know.
A missed opportunity here for a gag like you wouldn't believe. But okay, they are literally mounds, which I've never quite seen before. I've never been to that particular area of England, so I don't know how commonplace these mounds are. But there's
I think they're fairly rare.
It was very strange because they just sort of come out of the ground. Obviously, there's something buried underneath there.
Right.
And once they do get to the fact of like starting to dig, it is fascinating. Like, what are they going to find? I mean, this is the first time they're actually looking, in this particular area for who knows how many years. All that was great. And there's one scene in particular where Ralph Fiennes finds this piece of wood that is old, and him and another archaeologist go to lift it together, and it just breaks in half. It's so brittle. And you really feel how precious everything that they're digging up and finding, and where these characters even walk around the excavate. What do you call it? The
excavation
the site.
Dig. Yeah.
The dig. Everywhere around there. I mean, if a character was to walk and actually step on something fragile that they don't quite see, it might break it and it's lost for all of time, So I loved all of those attention to detail of getting the stuff out, but it needed some more drama. It was almost like, yes, I could see this probably would make a great book. Just don't know how great of a story it makes on the big screen.
I enjoyed it.
I think the transition there, it just left me like, that was okay, but this is not anything somebody's going to love. Nobody, I don't think, is going to watch The Dig and turn around and think this is some excellent movie by any means. And I think the story's lacking.
Here's the thing. I as soon as I finished watching The Dig, I was thinking, oh my God, I can't wait to tell my mom about this movie. This is the kind of movie she would like. It's not so dramatic that it's crushing. There's some airiness to it, but it's serious, right? I mean, they do go through some serious themes. There's romance in it with very attractive actors playing the romantic parts. And, there's also some history there, which, my mom digs. Plus, it's in England and she's into...
No pun intended.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. I am jealous of and I got to play with it a little bit, but our counterparts in film criticism who write, because this is so rife with pun material. I mean, Mrs. Pretty's Mounds, The Dig, all of it. Like, you could just have a field day with this. And punsmanship. So I'm calling on you, film critics out there, or even if you're just posting on Letterboxd, please send me your puns. I really want to see them.
Well, The Dig is streaming on Netflix right now. Matt, do you have a movie poster quote for us?
Yes, a perfectly entertaining unearthing.
I went with, I once said, Ralph Fiennes was such a great actor, I could watch him dig a hole for hours. Mission accomplished.
That's pretty fair, man.
Let's talk
about how many jaws. Okay, I'm gonna give this 3 jaws.
Wow. Okay, you're a little bit higher on it than me. I went 2.5 jaws. 2.5 jaws. I would recommend. Actually, I saw my brother last night. I had a little family dinner, and he said, "Hey, have you watched the movie The Dig?" And I said, "We're actually reviewing it this week on CinemaJaw." And he asked what I thought, and I told him, watch it, but you're not going to love it. And he likes all this kind of history and digging up stuff. So it's somewhat up his alley, but I think he's going to be let down a little bit by it.
I don't think so. I think your bro will enjoy it.
Movie pairings.
Yeah. So
what you saw this, what did you want to pair with it?
This is pretty obvious, and I kind of danced around this in my review, but you got to go with another great archaeologist after watching The Dig, and I think you go right to Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's digging, Well,
you want to talk about digging. I went with actually 2 pairings. One was somewhat funny and one was more serious. But the funny one was Shia LaBeouf in Holes.
Oh, yeah. Good call. That's a great pairing.
Sigourney Weaver is in it also. And she basically has all these kids digging for a hidden treasure. Can we throw that in the fish tank? It might be streaming on Disney Plus. I think it's a Disney movie. Throw it in, see if it's streaming. I saw Holes when it came out.
I believe it's Shia's screen debut, if I'm not mistaken.
Throw that in there also, if it is Shia's screen debut. I think Matt's wrong on that, but every once in a while he could be right. My more serious pick here was watching it. I was just reminded how great Ralph Fiennes is in The English Patient. And
I thought you were going to say Harry Potter.
No, I was going to say the English Patient, it somewhat became like the bunt of a lot of jokes. People started hating on the movie that had never watched The English Patient, and that always bothers me. It is such a beautiful looking film. The cinematography in that movie is absolutely gorgeous. And watching this, I think because it was a historical drama, it made me want to watch The English Patient again. I haven't seen it now in some time, so I'm going to give that a spin and pair it.
I'm not sure what you didn't like about this movie. It's a historical drama about people falling in love and their proximity to a boat, and there's things that are sinking, and there's British people in it. Kind of reminds me of another movie that you can't stop talking about.
Yeah, there we go. All right, 2.5 jaws for Rye the Movie Guy, 3 jaws for Matt K. If you see The Dig, you agree, disagree, just want to comment on anything, shoot us a tweet at CinemaJaw, or you can email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. All right, Matt, review number 3. You ready?
I'm ready.
Denzel Washington, Jared Leto, Rami Malek in a dark thriller. Most everyone, myself included, would say, sign me up. Can the 3 Oscar winners give us a crime drama for the ages? Or is this latest feature missing the little things that make a great film click? Matt K and I opened up its case file and started our investigation.
You're not exactly a department favorite. Things probably changed a lot since you left. You're
Still got to catch him, right?
Yeah.
Not that much has changed then, right?
I can assure you all we are taking a 24/7 all hands on deck approach to these cases.
Guy's a shark. If he stops, he dies. He likes to drive. Probably has a decent car, maybe 2, high mileage.
You must really like my car.
I do. How's the trunk space?
The Little Things opens with a young woman in her car being stalked by a creepy man. In one of the worst moves in movie history, she opts to get out of her vehicle at an abandoned gas station. This move proves costly as she is quickly hunted down and murdered. Information on this killing makes its way to Joe Deacon, played by Denzel Washington, who is a deputy sheriff. He drives up to Los Angeles and begins to work with Detective Baxter, played by Rami Malek, in tracking down the serial killer on the loose. Turns out, Joe Deacon has dealt with this killer before, or at least he thinks he has. Flashbacks indicate that a previous case went south and the killer was never caught. Their nifty crime work brings them across Albert Sparma, a very strange and demented character played by Jared Leto. Is he the killer or just a deranged individual who likes to keep the cops guessing? The other question that needs an answer, if Sparma is the killer, can the cops tie enough evidence to him for a conviction? Unfortunately, The Little Things was not as thrilling or as dark as I had hoped. To me, it felt like we were watching the cliff notes of an 8-part miniseries crammed into 2 hours. No time for character development, and early scenes are filled with just the mandatory dialogue to get us to the next scene. It had me wondering if this project started as the premise for a season of True Detective. The quick editing and short scenes stifle the movie. Jared Leto has recently been nominated for a couple awards, SAG included, and I did not buy his character. To me, his performance felt false. The ending did swing things back to the good a bit, but not enough to save it for me. Matt K., what did your investigation turn up?
Well, first of all, you would be a terrible detective because in the opening scene, the girl being chased does not die, and she comes back to be a witness later in the movie. That's not a spoiler alert. That's literally the opening of the movie.
Okay, but she does get out of her car at the abandoned gas station.
I agree.
Which is
dumb move.
Very stupid.
Well, she thought it was open, blah, blah, blah. Still.
It was not open. It was
clearly not open.
It was clearly closed and abandoned, and she's in her car driving and instead stops the car and gets out. It's just idiotic, literally idiotic.
Yeah, it is. It was dumb. But anyway, the other thing I don't agree with you on at all is the ending. You said that the ending brought this back together for you.
Swung it back a little bit.
Okay, I don't know how that is at all possible because, boy, did that ending suck. It was the... Have you watched these viral videos? They were popular a couple years ago, like Strangely Satisfying, where it's like people popping bubble wrap or like peeling the plastic off of a phone, stuff like that.
I don't have time for that. No, I've never seen that.
This is big on the internet, Brian. I know you're not aware of this thing called the internet, but this is the exact opposite of that. It's like they found something that's strangely unsatisfying and they put it into the ending of this movie. It was total crap. The beginning of the movie I enjoyed quite a bit. And right when Jared Leto enters the picture toward I guess would be like the beginning of Act 2, I really enjoyed the cat and mouse game between him and the detectives. Everything was it wasn't getting into high gear, but it was clicking. And then the end comes and just it sucked. It sucked. Also got to disagree with you on Jared Leto. I have read some other reviews and I'm confused as to why so many people are saying his performance was disingenuous or no good. I think it's kind of what he does best are these nutty characters with twisted mental states, and I bought it. I didn't think he was overacting. He put some mannerisms and kind of gave the character a little bit of a worn in feel, and I believed it was a real dude. He was just a creepy guy. I think we all have met somebody like that, and ran away from them.
to me, it felt false and forced, and it felt like I was watching Jared Leto try to be weird. And I hate that feeling, watching an actor try to be weird instead of really believing the actor is this character. Didn't buy it. And it was just such a clunky beginning. I don't know how you could get into this movie. I mean, there's one particular scene where Rami Malek's character asks Denzel to have breakfast with him. And the breakfast scene that they have is so... It's literally a movie scene. You can't believe that these two people actually went to a diner and were talking in any sense that these characters actually live in the real world. What we get is this quick exchange of needed information to move the plot along very fast. And then, of course, somebody comes into the diner and interrupts the scene. I mean, it's like a minute and a half long of just dialogue that we need to know, and then right to the next scene. Nothing felt real about it. It was like crammed in. Give the movie time to breathe. Let the characters actually live in this world that you're creating. None of that with this movie.
Well, I did read in my research that this script was written a long time ago. And a lot of people are saying they don't make movies like that anymore. That's true, because this feels like a 90s movie. It feels like something of the era of like the David Fincher, like crime revival thing that happened in the late 90s. And maybe it was a cast off for a reason. Maybe it stayed in that shoebox under a bed for a reason, because I agree with you in the end, not for the same reasons. I reached the same conclusion for different reasons. It didn't cross the finish line. Just one other
major gripe that I have with this movie and movies in general is I can't stand when detectives have to follow somebody in a vehicle. Everybody knows they're following this person. There's no, they're not even hiding it, right?
This is a gripe. I mean, I never even picked up on this. What do you mean?
Oh my, I like, okay. There's a part where Jared Leto's going to leave in his vehicle.
Right.
And
he's being tailed. I know what you're talking about. Sure.
Yeah. They're right across the street when he leaves. Yeah. Two guys sitting in their car.
Los Angeles. People are entering and leaving and moving around at all times.
Nothing strange. Just two guys parked in the car when I leave, get into my car, and then they start driving behind me. It's just so it was just terrible. I hated that. Huh. And of course, he does know eventually that Denzel's following him, and there's a cat and mouse game there across the highway.
That was creepy. But I liked that a lot.
Even still, that whole part, and Denzel like going over to his house and asking like how big the trunk is of his car, all of that just didn't work for me.
See, it's weird. We both don't like this movie for totally different reasons. I thought that was when the movie was at its best.
To me, I think the dialogue here that would somewhat save the movie is to talk about the Denzel Washington's character. He gives this gift to Rami Malek at the end. You don't like that he gives this particular piece of hair jewelry to...
I didn't say that.
To Rami Malek's character.
No, I like that particular part. It was more the scene that happened directly prior to that.
Like the digging of the holes and such. Right. You didn't like? Yeah. Not as good. A lot of digging going on this episode. There's a lot of digging of holes in this movie as well, actually.
Can you dig it?
But I think the thing that would save it for me is actually thinking of Denzel's character and what he was trying to do there and try to save Rami Malek's character. That is what I meant by it. Somewhat saved it. I mean, swung it into somewhat good terms is the best way to say that.
Can we do a spoiler alert? Because I really want to ask you directly about this.
Yeah, Matt, let's do a spoiler lounge at the end of the episode.
All right. We'll do a spoiler lounge.
The spoiler lounge will play at the end of the job, but for now, you got a movie poster quote for us?
Yeah. One word. Meh.
Weak. Not that mine's that much better, but I went with the little things is missing some things.
It sure is. Although I will say that the use of roast beef was pretty nicely detailed in the movie. Did you pick up on that?
Yeah, sure did.
Okay, good.
How many jaws?
2. This is a 2-jaw movie. It's straight down the middle. There are some things here that I think are interesting. It's always great to see talent like this, especially Denzel Washington, Rami Malek too. Of the 3, I would agree that Jared Leto's probably the least, but still enjoyable, I thought. But,
Well, I went a little bit below. I'm 1.5 Jaws for this. I would tell people actually not to give it a spin. I am not recommending The Little Things.
Yeah.
How about a movie pairing?
Oh, well, it's the obvious one, right? I mean, Seven. That's the thing that we're all thinking about when we watch this movie. And it is in every way, in every possible way, the vast superior to The Little Things. But this is a spiritual cousin to Seven.
So I thought that as well, and I figured you might go there. So I went a little bit deeper with a dig here, and I went 1997, Copland. And this is where, well, you got the different levels of cops merging together to solve a crime is where I saw the pairing come. So you have Stallone, Ray Liotta, Robert De Niro, Harvey Keitel. And obviously it's about a corrupt cop that tries to fake his nephew's death. And that leads to that unlikely pairing of Stallone and De Niro working together to uncover the corruption. Something about the two cops in The Little Things working together made me think of Copland.
All right, fair enough. I love Copland. Hasn't come up enough on the show.
The Little Things is streaming exclusively on HBO Max. It's also playing in limited release right now in theaters. If you see it, you agree, disagree, want to shoot us any type of comment on this review, tweet us at CinemaJaw or email us feedback@cinemajaw.com. What we're going to do is take a quick break. When we come back, we are playing movie trivia, Phil vs. Matt in animation movie trivia, plus some Hollywood headlines. Stick with us.
Continuing CinemaJaw's Jodie Foster month, we look back at her directorial debut in 1991's Little Man Tate. In this clip, Foster, who also does star in the film, makes a phone call to discuss her son.
Hello? Jane Grierson, please.
Speaking.
Oh, hi, this is Dee Dee Tate. I'm Fred's mom.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering, you know that trip you were talking about?
Yes, what about it?
Yeah, well, it's just for a couple of weeks, right?
Miss Tate, I'm sorry, but I've already selected my students.
Look, I don't know how much you know about Fred, okay, but the kid is amazing. He writes, he paints, he does everything. You should see this painting that he made for me. It's, like, incredible, so...
Just a minute here. Why are you suddenly changing your mind?
Excuse me.
Well, I don't mean to pry, but, do you need time alone, or have you made some plans that don't include your son?
Look, lady, you want to make me work for it, that's fine, okay? But you and I both know that Fred's 100 times smarter than any of those other little plate heads you got at that school. Now, you want him or not?
Does he have a suitcase?
It should be noted that as of this recording, Little Man Tate is streaming on HBO Max.
Jawheads, I want you to do me a favor. Pull your phone out of your pocket and go to your YouTube app. Search for the CinemaJaw channel and hit subscribe. Really, please do it right now. This will do two things. One, it helps us reach more people. We want to spread the good word about film, and you clicking subscribe really helps us do that. And two, it costs you nothing. That's right. Subscribing to CinemaJaw on YouTube is fun and it's free. Think of it as a donation that doesn't even cost you anything. Even if you just listen to the podcast and never really watch the videos, you subscribing on YouTube helps us make the podcast better too. But please check out a few videos while you're there. We think they're pretty good. So right now, while you're listening, before you forget, take your phone out. It shouldn't even interrupt the show. And go to YouTube, search CinemaJaw, and hit subscribe. And thank you so much.
And we are back on CinemaJaw. Matt, before we get to trivia, before we get to those Hollywood headlines, we did throw a few items into the fish tank, and I know Phil likes to swim up to the top, so let's open up that fish tank.
Wait a moment! It's fish! Isn't it?
DC! Wake up! Wake up!
No, Pat.
Dad. It's a giant glass bowl. Hey, there's some fish folk.
Who's coming with me besides Flipper? Here.
That's a Sicilian message. It means Luca Brasi sleeps with the fishes.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Thank you guys so much. We only have one question in here, actually. It's like a compound question, though. And I'm not sure if I'm excited about it or not, because I think it's going to showcase a clear generational gap between some members of this show.
You always love to point that out, Phil.
It's unavoidable with this one because it's about holes. You guys never had to read this in school. I don't even know if it was around when you were in school.
I saw the movie. I saw the movie when it came out.
I'm telling, we read this book like 3 times in like 4 different. It was like our Huck Finn. We watched the movie every year.
I'm just sad for you then. Huck Finn for my Huck Finn.
Huck Finn. We'll get into that later. Anyways, is Holes streaming? And is it Shia LaBeouf's big screen debut? It is on Disney Plus because it is a Disney movie.
All right.
However, it was not his big screen debut. As of course we all know, he was working with Disney on TV for Even Stevens long before this film.
Big screen.
And this is very shocking to me. But the Battle of Shaker Heights came out before Holes did.
I don't know the Battle of Shaker Heights. You know this?
I know it. I've never seen the movie, but I'm familiar with it.
Not that good. IMHO. I watched it probably when it came out 18 years ago.
What year did Holes come out? You got that in front of you?
2003.
2003.
Jesus, no way. I thought it
Holes
was
can vote.
90s.
It's crazy. Oh man, I remember. Like I said, I saw it when it came out on the old DVD format. There, I know I grabbed it at the Blockbuster and I watched it.
Same. I think I watched it with my parents.
When I was a kid, this came out when I was in 3rd grade. I cannot tell you how many times I got the whole soundtrack from the library because, just to be clear, the soundtrack for this movie does slap. It does.
I don't even know what's going on anymore.
It still holds up.
This used to be a movie podcast.
You got to go and dig those holes. Man, I'm tired.
Can we throw a selection from the Holes soundtrack underneath that, Phil, so we all know
all
what
you
you're
need.
talking about?
Here's the thing. I think everybody. See, this is what I'm talking about, the generational gap, that you guys did not immediately think of of Diggin' by the Detent Boys. the song where Shia LaBeouf raps.
Oh man, I don't even remember this.
You're telling me Shia LaBeouf rapped as a kid?
Not only that, I'm telling you that I know all of the words to that song still, and I will go so far as to say it's going to be on Patreon. You will hear me do all of the words to that song.
Wow.
We'll hold them to that. We'll throw that on our Patreon for sure. Yeah. All right. What else we got in the fish tank there, Phil?
We've got a lot in here. You are correct. We are moving on. We already celebrated Jodie Foster. Now we got our friend from New Zealand, Darren Mordecai.
Sweet.
He's been a jawhead for 4 or 5 years. He writes us, and we've met many jawheads through the years doing the podcast, but Darren holds the title of the farthest away someone lives that actually met us. And that was the case. It was 2 summers ago. Darren and his wife, all the way from New Zealand, Matt.
Right. I was going to say, not only does he hold the record, I don't think anybody can possibly beat it unless they come from the moon.
Right. He came all the way from New Zealand. Him and his wife were vacationing in the United States. One of their stops happened to be Chicago. And me, Phil, Matt went and met Darren and his wife at the Music Box Theater. Where else do you bring somebody from out of town? And we had a great time meeting Darren and having some drinks and talking movies. Wonderful jawhead.
He's delightful. Yes. And we've struck up a friendship. So it's one of the more rewarding things about doing the show is getting to meet the jawheads. So I'm saying jawheads, get in touch. We'll hang out.
Here's what's cool too, okay? Even if you are not in the same position as Matt Ryan and myself, where you have the opportunity to catch Darren and his wife as they're traveling the country, you do have the opportunity to listen to this show to get to know him, and hopefully you will feel as strongly about Darren as all of us do. Because we did do our movie libs with him. We had a couple of questions, and we asked him to fill in the blanks. Our first one, this is a classic. If Darren was starring in a romantic comedy, who would he want his love interest to be? Darren goes Rachel McAdams. I think that's a very, very sensible pick.
That is a very sensible pick.
It actually pisses me off because that's my pick. I'm getting Rachel McAdams. So I would be pissed if Darren is picking Rachel McAdams because I want Rachel McAdams. That is my go-to for romantic comedies also.
Now that you mentioned it, I want Rachel Adams too. I mean, if for no other reason, just to keep her away from you and Darren. We got a love triangle going on here.
Well, at least Darren's got good taste because I would definitely take Rachel McAdams as my love interest in a romantic comedy as well.
I that's funny that you say that because I think you are going to staunchly disagree with this. His favorite Batman on the big screen is Michael Keaton.
I wouldn't staunchly disagree with that at all.
I wasn't talking about you.
Although I'm a Val Kilmer guy, so there's no accounting for my taste.
Well, I don't think Michael Keaton's, it's not a terrible pick by any means. I'm not going to staunchly disagree. I'm a Christian Bale guy, but my second choice would be Michael Keaton. Yeah, it's of those two.
What if Michael Keaton was in the Christopher Nolan films? Now that would have been the perfect Batman, right?
I don't know.
When are they going to have into the Batman verse where they do get all of these old? Could you imagine that?
Well, I do hear tell that Michael Keaton is coming back as Batman.
And he says the F word.
Yeah.
Batman does?
Yes.
Oh, that's not a good role model for the kids.
That's what the news is. He says the F word. A movie that most people hate, but Darren likes is Elysium. And he is absolutely correct. I don't know anyone other than him who likes that. That is not fun.
Me.
Wow.
Loved Elysium.
Wow.
Darren, I had no idea you were into Elysium, dude.
That is a terrible pick, Darren. That is terrible. Darren just dropped a few pegs down the ladder on my outlook here. I hate Elysium. I hate it.
Matt Damon and our girl, right? Jodie Foster in a cyberpunk movie. I loved it. But then again, I also liked Chappie. So no accounting for my taste.
A lot of crap right there.
Okay, here's what Darren does have some good taste because his favorite Star Wars character is R2-D2.
No arguing there.
Tough to argue against that.
I do want to say, because we've gotten to know Darren, he sent us pictures on a message of his Star Wars collection. He's a fanatic. And my response to him was, Darren, you could charge admission for people to see your collection. He's got that thorough of a collection. Stormtrooper outfits. He's got full scale models of things going on over there. Very impressive, his collection of Star Wars goods.
If R2-D2 and BB-8 got into a fight to the death, who's walking out of there?
R2. There's no doubt about it.
I mean,
BB-8's got better mobility.
BB's cute. And he can't get scrappy. You know what I mean? If it came down to the very end, BB-8 would be like Daniel LaRusso in Karate Kid 2, where he goes honk, honk, and hits the guy's nose. R2-D2's like Daniel LaRusso in Karate Kid 1. He's dropping the crane kick on BB-8. He can kill somebody.
Well, I'd give it to you. He is smarter. Like the time he used the oil, he shot all the oil out at the destroyer droids, and then he hit his little jetpack, which was controversial.
I do think having a little taser is probably more effective when fighting a robot than a little lighter. Also,
true.
No, I don't think a taser's getting through like a battle droid's armor. They're probably
BB-8's
shielded.
not a battle droid.
Yeah,
no,
we're
but
not
he was
talking
fighting.
battle
He was
droids.
fighting
Yeah.
battle droids.
All right, back to Darren.
I like this pick a lot, actually. Also, I have history with this pick. His favorite movie in black and white is Seven Samurai.
That's a damn good pick.
It's a very good pick. That's
classy, Darren.
The CinemaJaw guys, Matt and Ryan, know this, but I don't know if many Jawheads do. But Phil is actually my middle name. My first name is Akira, and it's because of my parents really like Seven Samurai. I'm named after Kurosawa.
I didn't know that, dude. I mean, I knew.
We're finding out all kinds of things about Darren and Phil at the same time. I can't take it.
It's truly right. This is when it's kind of nice sometimes when we don't have a guest, because you can truly discover we're peeling back so many layers about the CinemaJaw web.
Really getting to know you, Phil.
And then this one is his last one, and everyone, you might want to grab some pen and paper because it's more in depth than I think we've ever gotten to this answer in a very good way. We asked Aaron what his favorite snack while watching a movie is. So you have to get Chop Top ice cream, eat chocolate, dip it into popcorn, and it's a salty dairy delight. Those are his exact words and the exact steps.
Can you read that back to me one more time? How do you do
Chop
this?
Top ice cream. I don't even know what the hell that is, to be honest with you. I don't know anyone who... it seems like I've seen Instagram videos of like, you're doing it wrong. Ice cream scoops where they use they chop ice cream. I don't know if that's at all what he's talking about. Eat chocolate and dip it into popcorn. I don't even know. Like I said, I feel like I'm taking a trigonometry class.
Or, yeah. Aaron, you're going to have to send us a diagram of exactly how to eat this snack. But it does sound good. Chocolate, ice cream, and popcorn? Sure. Can't you just get a bowl of ice cream, put some hot fudge over it, and then sprinkle like popcorn on top?
Whole thing sounds way too complicated.
Delicious,
though. Sounds good. I agree. I'm a big fan of the salty and sweet.
There we go.
Me too.
Well, we want to thank Darren for being a Patreon.
Yeah, and thanks to all the Patreons. And if you're not a Patreon yet, please join us there. Please join us there. We'll do another one of these Movie Lib rounds soon, and there's all kinds of other cool goodies there. So thank you in advance.
Was that everything, Phil?
That's all we got in the fish tank this week.
Jump back in the fish tank.
You bet.
Matt, a lot of stuff going on in the news. Let's read some Hollywood headlines. Phil, what was this first one thrown in there?
This one's terrific. A group of pranksters vandalized the iconic Hollywood sign and changed it to read Holly Boob.
This sounds like something Matt Kay would do.
That takes some serious chutzpah. First of all, that's a heck of a climb. I know it's doable, but it's not easy. And then to mess with those Hollywood letters, which are quite important and beloved in Los Angeles, takes some moxie, like I said.
I love everything about... Have you guys ever done a marquee swap prank?
No.
We used to change the Culver's flavor of the day to like whatever stupid thing we had. And that was like such a tremendous challenge to coordinate and make sure that like you're not going to get caught by the police. I can only imagine the amount of work that went in. I mean, technically it was illegal, but I cannot commend these guys enough. That's so funny.
Yeah, it's worth it, man. We needed something to laugh about. This is
they're like a real life groove.
Cue the laughter. Cue the laughter track.
Well,
Matt.
I mean, there's what else could you have done easily? They only had
it's not even good.
One letter, really.
But it's still great.
All right. Some award chatter out there, Matt. Golden Globe nominations. Mank led all nominations with 6. The Trial of the Chicago 7 followed with 5 nominations. The biggest headline here for CinemaJaw's sake is Delroy Lindo not nominated. Matt, what went wrong here?
I'm not sure. That's crazy talk, honestly.
Completely robbed.
I mean, listen, I do think he was a lock for a time last year, and then there may have been some other performances that sort of knocked him out of that lock, but he still certainly should be in the discussion. Absolutely.
I agree. Also should be noted, Jodie Foster, who we are celebrating, was nominated for a Golden Globe for her role in The Mauritanian, which we will be reviewing later on this month.
Nice. Look forward to that. All right, Ryan, here's another one. Chadwick Boseman makes history with 4 SAG nominations in a single year, nominated for his performances in The Five Bloods and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Both of those movies also received Best Ensemble nominations as well.
Fantastic for Chadwick Boseman, and well-deserved. We loved him in both movies. I think come Oscar time that The Five Bloods might not get it for a nomination, but he's definitely a lock for a nomination and maybe a win for Ma Rainey's Black Bottom.
I agree. Yeah, it's a true talent. He's going to be missed.
For sure. All right, that wraps up Hollywood headlines, and you can hear the music playing. Phil, I hope you're ready because it is time to take Matt Kay on in some movie trivia. End the podcast on a high note and beat Matt Kay, will you please? In honor of Earwig and the Witch, new animated film on HBO Max, we are playing animation voice movie trivia. It's going to work simple. And because it's an easy one, there's actually 10 questions instead of 8.
Oh, geez.
Whoa.
All I'm giving you is the character name. All you
Not
have
even
to
the
do,
movie?
No. Yes, in the movie. Yes, in the movie.
Okay.
Character name in the movie. All you have to do is give me the actor who portrayed the voice. Sound good? You know the drill here, Phil. In this case, you're our guest. You get to choose if you want to go first or let Matt K go first. What do you want to do? And you do
Frank
have a rescue.
TZD rules. Frank TZD rules. You always go first.
Always go first.
Especially, I could still mess this up. No one place your bets on me. Just don't bet, okay? I think that's a silly thing to do in this circumstance. But
Also,
go first.
this style, since it should be it's better played if it's a little rapid, So quick thoughts. Here we go. Ready? Timer on.
All right.
Question 1 over to Matt K. Dory finding
What the
Nemo.
hell?
Phil said he's going
What the
first.
hell?
I'm sorry. Over to Phil. Question number 1 over to Phil. Dory finding Nemo.
Ellen DeGeneres.
Correct. 1-0 Phil. Question 2 over to Matt K. Batman, the Lego movie.
Will Arnett.
Correct. Matt K ties it up 1-1. Question 3 bounces back over to Phil. Princess Fiona, Shrek.
Cameron Diaz.
Wow, he is on fire. 2-1 Phil. Question 4 over to Matt K. Anna in Frozen.
Kristen Wiig.
Ooh, his first slip up. You could take a steal here. He was close, but not correct. Phil, Anna in Frozen.
Kristen Bell.
Yes, ring that bell. It is now 3-1. See how it swings so easily? 3-1 to Phil. And question 5 is over to him. Scar in the original Lion King, 1994.
Oh, shit. It starts with an A, I think.
It wasn't. Oh, shit. That's definitely not the right answer.
Do you have a rescue if you want to use it in question 5?
On 5? Out of 10?
Out of 10.
No, we're just going to, I don't know. Anthony Hopkins. I got
No, that is incorrect.
I got nothing.
Matt, Scar in the original Lion King.
Jeremy Irons.
He's back in the ball game. 3-2. And question 6 is over to him. Matt can tie it up with this one. Grug in The Croods, 1 and 2.
Oh, man, I didn't see it. Grug. Nicolas Cage.
He is absolutely on fire. It is,
Whoa! Incredible.
Tied it up.
Holy crap.
He has tied it up.
Wild guess.
3-3. Question 7 over to Phil. Boss Baby.
Oh, shit. I think it's Alec Baldwin. It's one of the Baldwins.
It's correct. 4-3, Phil. This is a barn burner, boys. Question 8 over to Matt K. Matt, Flint Lockwood, the lead in Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs.
Holy crap. Oh, man, I know this. It's, oh, Jesus. Seth Meyers.
Oh, incorrect. Phil, chance for a steal and to really lock this game up here.
I think it's Bill Hader.
That is correct.
Oh, Jesus.
Unbelievable.
Can I
If it
win
was him or
some?
Rainn Wilson?
It is 5-3, Phil, with 2 questions left. And question 9 is to Phil, so he can win it right here. Phil, Branch from Trolls.
Ryan, don't do this to me, man. JT? Whoa!
We'll give him that one. Justin Timberlake it is.
That was a total
6-3.
guess.
Last question of the game was Rapunzel from Tangled over to Matt K.
I'll take a clue.
Oh, you don't know this one?
No.
The clue should help you a lot more.
Mandy Moore.
There you go. That was a fun one, wasn't it? Phil wins this one 6-4.
Yes, absolutely. Great sportsmanship. By the grace of God, I have somehow pulled that out, and I could not be more thankful.
It's those new earrings you got there, Phil. Those are bringing you good luck.
They're good luck charms.
There you go.
That's true.
The Jawbreaker, in case it came down to it, was Crudes. Good movie or no?
No. Absolutely. It's a good nothing. I don't know why they're still making the series.
I have not seen the Crudes. I was teetering with jumping in once I saw there was a 2, because I'd never bothered with the first one. So then I thought, well, if they made a 2, the first one must be damn good. But you guys are telling me no good, huh?
No, you had a lot of like very profitable movies that aren't good on this on this trivia, because you also had Boss Baby in there.
Right. I had to shake things up, Phil. You got to shake it up when you're got an animation expert like yourself.
Boss Baby was good. I liked Boss Baby.
We'll talk offline.
It was okay.
All right, brings us to the end of a great Jaw. Remember, Jawheads, we do have Spoiler Lounge on The Little Things coming up here as we wrap up the show. But before we do that, we got to thank our editor, the winner of trivia, our producer. Fill me in, Phil.
Thank you so much. I've never felt more like the boy of the hour than I do right now.
Oh, that makes me happy, Phil. I'm glad I lost.
Matt, we also got to thank our sponsors.
Yes, thanks to Overcast and the Chicago Podcast Co-op, who help us get great sponsors like them.
Hey, if you want to support CinemaJaw, the easiest way to do so is by leaving us a review wherever you're listening to this podcast.
And while you're at it, click subscribe. One extra button for you helps us out a ton.
Until next week, I'm Rye, the movie guy.
I'm Matt K. And keep on jawing about the movies.
This is a warning. You have entered the CinemaJaw Spoiler Lounge. Plot details, character deaths, twist endings, and everything in between will be discussed. Only continue forward if you have seen the movie in discussion, or do not care if something is spoiled for you. Again, this is a warning.
Jawheads, you have entered the CinemaJaw Spoiler Lounge. We are going to be spoiling the ending of The Little Things. You're warned. Here we go.
All right, here we are in the Spoiler Lounge, Ryan. I'm going to ask you directly. The barrette is the piece of hair jewelry, as you called it, in question here. It's a red barrette that Rami Malek considered to be proof positive that Sparma, was that his name?
Mm-hmm.
Jared Leto's character was, in fact, the murderer. Wasn't there something, and I got to rewind it like to double check, but when he's first checking the box in his apartment, didn't we see a red barrette in there?
The first time that Denzel Washington goes into Sparma's apartment?
Yeah, and he finds the box under the floorboard, which,
I don't
by the
think
way,
there's
if
a
he's
barrette
not
in
the
there.
killer, why the hell does he have clippings from all the murders? Just this one killer's murder. So he happens to be a guy who fits the description in every way and follows the same serial killer that they're hunting.
I think the idea is that he is supposed to be the killer, but that they can't find the evidence exactly to point it to him. So my question actually on this is, in the earlier scenes where we see that Denzel is clearly chasing a serial killer, and he is out in the open there in like the brush, and he hears what he thinks is the killer coming, and he shoots, and he actually kills one of the
victims, yeah.
One of the victims, and he kills this girl, and then he's riddled with guilt this whole entire time. Do you think that was the same killer? Or that's just a separate case, and he understood that he actually killed one of the victims?
I think it's the same killer. The
You do?
MOs match and stuff. Yeah, it's intended to be the same killer.
Yeah, so I don't think he saw the barrette when he goes in, or else he would have actually then went and grabbed it. But
Eagle-eyed jawheads, look out, because I think for sure I saw something red. I meant to go back and rewind it, but I was so unsatisfied with the movie, I was just like, I don't really care. I'm not going back. But I'm pretty sure there was a red barrette in that case.
Let us know, Jawheads. This has been a Spoiler Lounge at the end of the Jaw.